Hello world! Welcome to another exploration of open data using the OpenDataDEx, a project of the Knowledge Commons. So this week's topic is going to be on notable dogs. I'm a huge dog lover and would always like to know more about the stories of famous dogs. These are dogs who are famous for any reason. Maybe they were search and rescue dogs. Maybe they were space test dogs. Maybe they were owned by famous leaders. Maybe they're current social media stars. So the resource that contains data on all these different types of dogs is Wikidata, which is a pretty amazing open knowledge base made possible by the Wikimedia Foundation. So let's get into it. The app is behind me here. Let's see. So if you go to OpenDataDEx.com, this is what you'll see. It defaults to an astrology query to go along with the astrology sort of visual theme of this. So if we go here, we can pick the pre-built SPARQL query, Wikipedia pages on notable dogs. You can see the full SPARQL query here. That's going to get sent directly to this endpoint. We're going to generate a new dex, so it's going to retrieve that data, build the structure, and return it here. While it's doing that, it shouldn't take too long. I don't think there's much data, but while we're doing that, we can see that if you click on, oh, that was fast, there it is. Okay, but to keep going over the features, you can click on nodes. It'll show you the Wikipedia page here. You can click on edges. It'll do a tag comparison showing where a tag is a property value pair. It'll show you tags that are exactly the same between two animals, and then similar where the property is the same but the value's different, and then unique where they don't even share those same properties. We can look at more connections all the way up to 12, and then all the way down to the top one connection, and these are scored and ordered connections. And so it develops to the top 6. I find that always just makes a good looking graph. We can go to the previous object here, and then we can search for an object. So let's see, let's Doug the pug there, and then we can always return to our hub object. So speaking of our hub object, it is Cook. I do not know who Cook is, but he is a very common type of popular dog, which is a Jack Russell Terrier dog actor. So even though this one is a Spanish dog, maybe he's very famous in Spain. So not that popular to me, but I do see here dogs, another very famous Jack Russell Terrier dog here, via Terry. So Terry was the cairn terrier who played Toto. So via Terry, we can get to Soccer, who is was a big part of my childhood, playing the dog Wishbone, PBS's Wishbone. And so, yeah, we can see now Soccer is directly related to Cook, even though Cook wasn't directly related to Soccer. And yeah, we see what connects them is they're both Jack Russell Terriers, they're both actors. So that's a very, you can see there's not a ton of total data. And actually you'll see that about pretty much all dogs here. There's not a lot of data on them. And so therefore certain, it might only be 1 or 2 tags that really cements why dogs are going to be related in the OpenDataDEx. So yeah, these are animal actors, Jack Russell Terrier, they've got occupation, place of birth. So let's see here. I think Moose is also, Moose played Eddie on Frasier, a favorite show of mine. And so yeah, we see Soccer, Cook. Let's see what some of these other dogs. Another Jack Russell actor. Let's see who Uggy is. another Jack Russell actor. So yeah, we're in a little cluster that's really nice of these Jack Russell Terrier actors. Let's see, let's get out of that. I'm seeing Balto here. I know Balto's not an actor. Balto's another dog of my childhood because there was a very popular animated movie about him. Balto is a husky who delivered antitoxin to an outbreak of the disease, and he saved a lot of people's lives. Yeah, so we somehow got from actors to Balto. And then I see here another dog who I know is famous. This is Hachiko. And yeah, Hachiko was a dog famous for how loyal he was. His owner, a famous scientist, passed away in Japan. This dog, for almost 10 years, kept going to the train station to wait for him. So he's beloved in Japan, and then his story actually even went global, and he's beloved globally. So let's see why Hachiko and Balto were related. Yeah, so you can see the tags that are shared between those two really aren't anything specific. They're just male dogs and instances of an animal. So I think the reason these are so related is they just happen to have a little bit more data than these other dogs. All these dogs seem to not have very many tags. This really isn't very much data here. So I think the fact that these are famous dogs, there's a little more data than probably a lot of these other dogs. That's why they're so connected. They've got images, place of death is recorded. Let's see, they both have their owners recorded. So there's good reasons why these are connected. Let's see, I know this dog he was a Soviet space dog. He's the first dog to orbit the Earth. Pretty amazing. So yeah, even though the reasons for being famous are different, I would guess that Laika is related to Hachiko Balto just because they're so popular and there's a little more data on these than on other dogs. Let's see who Pickles is. Pickles, black and white collie dog. He found a trophy before the FIFA World Cup. That's pretty funny. So let's see why those are very different dogs. Let's see why they are related. Yep, and the tag shared is really nothing special. Birth and death recorded. And then they've got their gender recorded. But then, yeah, you see the Laika has a lot more data for her. Wow, even her heart rate was recorded, nicknames. Let's see, manner of death, killed in their profession. Yeah, unfortunately, she died while in orbit. There was no plan to bring her back. But that is why I would consider her a hero. So yeah, I think, unfortunately, because there's just not a ton of data in Wikidata for these dogs, the clustering, the finding of relationships on this, the app is just like making its best guesses. So the more data that would be in here, maybe more people putting in why a dog is famous, different metadata like that you're going to have better and better structure, and, emergent relationships come out of this. But even with how the data is now, I think it's still good enough to get a pretty good navigation and, find different dogs who, are connected in various ways. Here's a dog called Daddy. I know Daddy is Cesar Millan's dog. I'm a fan of Cesar Millan, who, that dog has helped train in a lot of dogs. And let's see who Barney is. Okay, so now we're maybe getting into some dogs who are owned by different leaders. This dog was owned by the Bushes. Let's see, Bunku. Okay, this was so there, I'm unfortunately not seeing a ton of good clustering of these dogs. There's a riot dog participated in protests. That is pretty interesting. Here's Tillman, a skateboarding dog. So yeah, I would have expected someone like Tillman to then be connected to a dog like Doug. I don't know if you know who Doug is, but he's like a social media star. So if we look up Doug the pug, he's got a big social media following. And yeah, we're just not seeing that cluster of, and I'm guessing it's because I bet there's not a ton of data on Doug the pug. So if let's see, Doug the pug and Strongheart. And yeah, there's just not much data. And so the more data there is, the better clusters you'll get. But again, like I said, I still think it's fun and interesting to go through these. And, you can always increase the number of connections and, maybe get into some weird dogs that you never knew existed, or wouldn't expect a dog to be famous for a certain reason. This dog was owned by Vladimir Putin. All right, well, we could keep going into this data. I'm sure we could, all these dogs have different stories and be really fun. Feel free to go to OpenDataDEx and make this dex and go through your own exploration. But right now, let's get into the actual query of this. So a good way I like to test and visualize the query, go to query.wikidata.org. This is a nice front end for their SPARQL endpoint. So if we were to just straight copy this query, then run it, we will get the same data that the app uses. And one good thing about this query, okay, so yeah, that was pretty fast. There's not a ton of data. But one good thing about this query is we can easily change the species. And so that makes it fun. Let's say we want all the data, all the notable cats. And so if we go here, let's see, and we type cats, then let's see, we don't want the musical or anything, any of those. We want, maybe I just want cat. Let's see. I do want cats. Let's see. I just want the general ID that is cats. Gosh, it's not giving me, but you know what? I personally just happen to know what it is, which is Q146. I don't know why I wasn't seeing it in that drop down. So that's going to give us, oh, I keep pasting this, don't I? Okay. Oops. So, okay, that was super fast. There's really not much data. So if we were to put that into here, we can go to custom and Ariadne, and if you want to create custom queries and you've watched this video, you're welcome to. Again, that key was Ariadne. Please read those notes. And yeah, we can go here and put in that query we just did, which is instead of 144, 146, and generate the new dex. And so this one will make a very similar graph, but now these are cats, with the hub being Sox Clinton, a cat of the Clintons. And I'm sure these are all, this is a cat of the Bushes. This is an internet famous cat. So yeah, you can easily change up this query for different species. One interesting thing is if you do horse. So if we were to look for horse and we want all famous instances of horses, it's surprising this query is actually going to take a really long time because there is a ton of data on horses. And actually, this query is likely to fail in the app just because of how long, how big this result set is, you know, over 30,000 results. And I'm guessing that there's so much horse data because, you know, there's going to be a lot of famous race horses. And so, you know, some organization or some individual has put in a lot of this horse data. Again, I'm guessing these are famous race horses. And so, yeah, surprisingly, there's way more horse data than there is cat data or dog data. Again, on these famous animals. So, you know, I would say, let's go back to the dog graph. I would say let's try to get notable dog data as robust as horse data here. You know, I don't know who might be interested in putting this data in, but the more that there is, the better the applications can be that use this open data. And, you know, of course, this data, Wikidata, tries to really adhere to like linked data standards. So you're going to see a lot of URIs and IDs so that, you know, data stored about, you know, let's say this dog Strongheart, German Shepherd, another actor, that, you know, if there is some movie database that has information about Strongheart, it can get linked to this Wikidata data that we have on, again, sometimes you have to move, you've got to move a node to actually see the specific edge. But yeah, it can supplement this data that we have on Strongheart. Okay, well, I think that's about it. Thank you so much for checking out this demo of OpenDataDEx. I hope it was interesting to you. If you have any questions, comments, maybe suggestions to find more data on notable dogs, please let me know. There are links to the Knowledge Commons and in the blog and in the video description. The blog post does have more details about this specific notable dogs topic. And yeah, next week we're going to do a new data exploration, probably on, I think the next drop-down option is Supreme Court rulings. So that'll be an interesting dex that gets created there. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone. Have a good week.